All right, hello everyone, and thanks for attending. Today is the fourth in our five-part series about Vault PLM, and today we'll be focusing on new product introduction. So that's we'll talk about what that is, first of all, and then we'll talk about how important it is to have a good and efficient process, and then we'll review the Vault PLM functionality surrounding NPI and how it can help you improve how you bring new products to market. So today will be a relatively brief webcast. NPI is in general a fairly complex process, as you might guess, taking an idea all the way through manufacture and delivery of a product to obsolescence. So we couldn't possibly fit a good start to finish example in a webcast. But I'm going to hit the highlights of both what a good process might look like and what the current Vault PLM product could help you improve. So as a reminder, again, this is the fourth in a series of 5 webcasts. Today, new product introduction. Next week, we're going to be wrapping up the series with discussing managing supplier and suppliers information and supplier collaboration. And that again will be next Wednesday at the same time. So again, today, new product introduction. And I'd like to start by having you think about where new ideas for new products in your environment come from. Like, where do these ideas, how do these come up? It might be from someone in engineering, has an idea for a new product or a variation on something you sell to, fill a gap in the market. A lot of times it'll come from maybe sales or marketing. They deal with customers. And so a customer may come to you with an idea. It could be somebody, out in productions, like, I see these things, I know what they do, I know how they work. We could, do the things, a little bit differently and have something that I think could fill a real hole. So these ideas can come from anywhere. But I'd also like you to think about when an idea like this comes up for a new product, how do you take that idea and realize it? You may have a formal process today. You may not have a formal process. We're going to be taking a look at one way you could formalize such a process in Vault PLM. But generally, to have a good NPI process, collaboration is key. The process extends across the entire organization. Everyone literally is involved. Every group is involved between, sales and marketing, engineering, actually doing the design of the product. It's got to be built, it's got to be serviced, it's got to be shipped. Lots of stuff has to be bought. You got to get paid for it, right? So this literally involves everyone throughout the organization. And especially if every group within the company is using their own software to do their specific task day to day, you end up with silos of information. And breaking those walls between the different groups, providing visibility to everyone, getting decisions made on time with the right information is key to a successful product launch. So as we go through this, think about how you work today and how you take an idea for a new product, all the way from ideation through retirement and obsolescence, because everything's involved when we're talking about what I would call an NPI process. Now, as you think about that, also think about where there might be gaps in your process, right? Because according to some research that Autodesk has done over the last couple of years, about 80% of new product introductions can fail. And failure is a broad term here. It could just be we had this great idea that never panned out. we took something all the way through to production and it just didn't sell well. Lots of things, could be considered failure when it comes to trying to introduce a new product. And there are lots of reasons for that. Changing requirements can be a big one. If you don't accurately capture the requirements for a new product, or if you don't capture changes to those requirements, you can end up delivering a product that doesn't meet, requirements. I can give you an example of that. My first job out of school, and this was a machine design example, so it's not necessarily product related, but similar idea. The day I walked into the door of this new company, my first job, they were finishing the design on a machine, and it was a pretty complicated machine, and it was supposed to be inspecting some machined parts to see if there were like chips in an O-ring groove. And we designed it. Presumably the customer reviewed the design and we discussed what it was supposed to do. We built it. We tried to run it off to get customer acceptance. The runoff didn't complete. And then the week after, the customer came back with just a huge pile of new requirements that the machine, as built, was never going to meet. And that project was just a complete disaster. And the issue in that case really was the customer had hard requirements. We did not properly capture those requirements for a long period of time. And when those requirements finally became clear, literally a year worth of work was wasted because the direction we went and the tooling we had was never going to lead to something that would meet those requirements. So properly capturing requirements and reacting to changes in requirements are vital to delivering a quality product. Another reason that a product can fail is product complexity. I deal with this all the time where someone might come to me with a good idea, or I might have what I think is a good idea myself, and I think, well, it would be awesome if we could do this. I'm 99% sure we can do this, but it's pretty complicated. There's a lot of risk involved, and we don't necessarily have what we need in place to manage that risk and manage the complexity and deliver on that idea and properly, realize it. And so with the right processes and the right software to help, you can manage that complexity. And so thereby reducing the risk. And so again, it's important to have good processes, because you can take what could be a very successful, very profitable product and realize it, even though it is complex. Whereas if you don't have processes that everyone recognizes within the company that are solid and can deliver on complex products, there may be so much perceived risk that management may say, well, we probably can't execute that properly. Let's go with something simpler that we know, right? So you could be leaving money on the table because everyone just thinks that you won't be able to deliver something. More and more resource constraints are a problem. Again, a good idea, we all know it could work. We all know we could deliver on it. We just don't have what we need in place. We don't have the time to do it. Now, sometimes that can be misperception. Maybe it won't take as much time as we think. But if we're spending a lot of our time on things that don't add value to the various processes in our organization, we have less time for innovation and less time for new products. Supply chain issues can be a real problem as well. Managing the things that you have to buy. Again, you got a complex products, you're going to have to source a lot of components. the product relies heavily on those things that you source, maybe, if you can't rely on delivery and quality from your suppliers, that could kill the product. We get most of the way there. We realize we can't guarantee product quality because we can't find a quality supplier. We don't have a good process to make sure that, what we're being promised is what is being delivered. We don't have a good way of reacting to supply issues, say semiconductor shortages, if you're familiar with what's going on in that market right now. Being able to confidently react to those sort of things because you have a good process to manage them, can again lower risk, make it more palatable to introduce a new product, and make more money. And so we'll be talking about supplier collaboration, supplier management next week. But things like resource constraints and product complexity, managing bills of material, we already talked about that last week. What we've been talking about for the last several weeks, could help resolve issues with resource constraints, because better processes generally lead you to having more time to add value to what you're doing, right? So PLM can help with all of these reasons that product introduction can fail. And then the big one that PLM absolutely can help resolve is a lack of visibility. We don't know where we are in the process. We don't know where we are in terms of schedule. Maybe a PM knows it, but the data is locked up in a Microsoft project on their system, and they're busy with other projects, or they're out of town or something. So we don't really know where we stand, and now we've let deadlines slip, and now one of our competitors beat us to market, and now we're either coming in second or maybe we just have to scrap the whole thing because we're so far behind that we're just never going to catch up, and we've lost our position in the market. So visibility really is probably the most important one. And PLM and Vault PLM specifically can really solve that problem. Make sure everyone has the right information at the right time to do what they need to do, add value, and get a product out the door. So I want to show you a little graph here. This is something you may have seen in various iterations, but the whole idea of the life cycle of a product and showing how you get to revenue, essentially like a revenue curve. You start out obviously investing in a new product as you come up with an idea, develop that idea, develop the product itself and tooling and how you're actually going to build it. Then obviously once you start building it and you start selling it, the goal is to get positive on this curve, right? And then eventually you iterate on that product, you release improvements, you reduce cost, you improve quality, and then eventually the product gets retired. So if this is a typical curve for what you do today, and you're not using PLM, what PLM can do is help you change that curve, right? Now the curve may be where it is today because you may have inconsistent processes, you may have quality issues, you spend so much of your time doing busy work that you're not adding value to the process, talking about you as people in general. Managing changes in requirements gets expensive and could derail a project entirely. Changing regulations, being able to both comply with them and prove that you're complying with regulations can eat up a lot of time, right? And so these things tend to grow the investment part of the curve and shrink the revenue part of the curve, so that ultimately you make less money or even, make no money at all or lose money. And so what PLM can do is actually shift that curve a little bit, right? It can shift on the time scale so that we're delivering our products faster. It can shrink the investment part of the curve, because we're improving communication between the various departments as we bring a product to market. And then once we have the product in the market, we can better react to change through PLM so that we're spending less time on non-value add activities, improving quality, making sure we're meeting customer requirements. And so PLM can really help with all parts of the overall product lifecycle. And the Vault PLM solution specifically does this by making sure you have your product data in one centralized location for visibility. It can speed up the development and general business processes, and then extend the value of that product data to both people inside the organization and outside, right? So we've got data, processes, and people. That's all what PLM brings together to improve new product introduction. And so as a reminder, sort of the 5 pillars of the Vault PLM solution. We're talking about new product introduction today. Again, these ideas come from a lot of different places. We need to capture those ideas. We need to develop them properly. And so what we're talking about today is really the beginning of the process. Capturing that information, making sure the product gets developed properly, proper visibility, all the way through production and retirement. And the way that works in the Vault PLM world is NPI starts in PLM, in Fusion Lifecycle, and then at the right time, data can automatically be pushed to the PDM solution, to Vault, so that when we all agree that we've reached the point where it's time to start, say, doing CAD work to design the product, design tooling, what have you, we know where we're going. We have a sense of what we need done. And we can communicate that directly from PLM into the Vault solution to get a head start on the design. And then as the design proceeds, that can feed information back to the PLM solution to complete the process, right? Because our day-to-day CAD use is really a small part of the overall product introduction process, right? So today's presentation is going to mostly focus on things inside Fusion Lifecycle when we get into the software portion. Right. So by using the Vault PLM solution for new product introduction, we remove inefficiencies from the process. We make sure everyone is aligned and on the same page. We can create templates for new products if you have different types of product that require different tasks to execute to realize their introduction. We have the concepts of milestones, tasks, workflow. We're going to take a look at all of this in a minute. But with the workflow engine inside of Fusion Lifecycle, the idea of tasks, bills of material, the highly collaborative nature of it, notifications, delegations, escalations, lots of things, and the ability to monitor the process through reporting and extracting information from the system. We always know what needs to happen next. We always know who is responsible. We always know where they are in the process. And we can make the right decision at the right time to keep things on track. So let's take a quick look at some functionality now. So we're looking at the Fusion Lifecycle application here now inside my web browser. And for a new product introduction, we have a workspace in this case called products. Now this is a list of all of the products that we manufacture and sell. And this is a very effective way to manage products, and it serves as sort of a container for all of the information related to the product, but also the process for realizing that product from an idea where, you know, we don't even know what it looks like yet, all the way through production and then even retirement, right? So let's say we make maybe, you know, fitness devices, and we have this idea for a new chest strap heart rate monitor. I use one of those every day on my bike. And there's some things I don't like about the one I have, you know, so, you know, I've got an idea for a new one. We're going to realize this product. When I look at this product inside Fusion Lifecycle, I can see lots of information about it. And again, remember that the Fusion Lifecycle environment is extremely configurable. Any information you may want to capture about a product, you can capture in this system. In this case, there's not a ton of information on my products right now, but I do have some important things like a classification. What does marketing call this thing? A product family. That can be a definition of product families in my system, the industry that it's targeted at, but also very importantly, the product team. Who is actually involved in bringing this product to market? Because we're going to have people from sales, from marketing, from engineering, from production, right? And lots of people are going to ultimately be involved in this process. We need to make sure the right people get involved at the right time and that they know what they're supposed to do, right? So we can associate people with this product, and we can associate tasks, right? So in this case, I have a few tasks for the project where it stands right now. We're early on in this product, and we can actually look at where we are in the process through workflow, right? So we're past the concept phase now, because we know we kind of have an idea of what we want. Now we're into requirements definition, gathering the requirements for this. We'll proceed then through development, validation, pilot production, full production, and then eventually retirement. Where we are at each point of this process, there are going to be tasks involved, right? And those tasks can have time associated with them. That's the important part about PLM, is we may know what we need to do, but a very important aspect of this is the time element. Because if you're bringing a product to market, time is critical. The longer it takes to get in production, the longer it takes to start getting paid back, the better a chance one of your competitors is going to beat you to market, and you're going to lose market share as a result, right? So in this workflow, every one of these arrows is something that a decision that needs to be made. These things can be delegated, they can be escalated, notifications are involved, so when it's your time to execute one of these tasks, you can be notified. Each of these tasks have milestones. Now the milestones I have here are very basic. It's either the task is either it's open, it's under review, or complete. These tasks can have multiple milestones if you need to, ultimately adding up to the task being completed. And these tasks, these milestones have start and end dates. And so this, again, adds the time element. So if we're talking again about this curve where time is critical and we want to shrink investment, grow revenue, but also push that time, that curve back to where we start making money faster, this is a critical part of that, is being able to assign a time to these tasks, get reminders about them. If I look at my homepage here, every task that I have in the system is on my outstanding work page, right? These are all the tasks that I have to do. whether it's been delegated or escalated. Little red flags mean that it's overdue, right? Other flags could show up here to say if it's nearly due. So always at your disposal, you have a list of what it is you need to do and when. I personally live and die by my calendar. I have a list of things similar to this with dates, and if I didn't have what I needed to do and when I needed to do it, I would be lost, right? And the great thing about something like Fusion Lifecycle is this just happens by virtue of executing the process. The things show up on people's list when it's time, and it tells them when those things are due. So again, if we take a look at our product, we can look at the tasks individually. If we look at the task page on a product, we can see all of the tasks, and we can even look at this in Gantt chart form, where if you've ever worked on a project before, you've probably seen a Gantt chart laying out each task, where it appears on the calendar and its duration. We can also associate tasks with one another to help develop a critical path, so we know what tasks rely on others. We can't start this one before that one's done. This one's getting late, so we need to make sure we wrap that one up so we can start this other critical task. So you can review this, lots of different ways you can look at the data, interact with it, and then each of these tasks themselves are a record within the system that again can have their workflow. Again, this is a very simple workflow. We're either working on it, being reviewed or completed, but if you've got complex tasks that you need to capture, you can capture a workflow for that task. And then again, as people just do their work, this information feeds back up to the product level, and whoever's responsible for shepherding the overall project can get a sense of what's going on without having to email people or track people down in the hallway or call them or message them on Teams. You don't have to worry about any of that. People do their work, they execute it in the system, it all rolls up, and everyone has a clear picture of what's going on. Right. Now, these products as well have a bill of material. So last week's session talked about bills of material and the importance of those. And what we focused on last time really was like the engineering bill of materials, I would say, what comes, say, from Vault and gets transferred into PLM. But part of the power of Fusion Lifecycle is you can take that engineering BOM and you can look at it in different ways, you can manipulate it. So like in this case, if the CNC router here, if this item, this is our product right here, well, the engineering BOM is this router assembly. I can manipulate this and add components from the system to it. So, you know, it could be packaging, it could be instruction manuals, it could be spec sheets, it could be the, you know, documents that have to go with it for regulatory compliance. It could be anything, could be added to this bill of materials from an appropriate workspace so that you can get a complete list of everything that is required to fully deliver this product, right? And then as those things change over time, they get revised. You can see where they stand, helping you react to change properly, make sure you're continuing to meet requirements, and make sure you deliver a quality product on time. And we have this concept of templates as well, which I mentioned before, where if you look at the task template here, this is a industrial machinery type product. And so in the system here, we have a whole host of what we call task templates. And these are, again, completely configurable, where if, you know, let's say we do a lot of stuff, right? We may make medical devices, we may do high-tech things. You know, a medical device has a different set of tasks potentially, compared to just a general consumer high-tech product, right? So these templates, when we create a new product and we go through the new product introduction process, we can say, here's the type of product it is, and we can automatically populate our tasks tab with these things that we know we have to do for every new product that we introduce. At what point on the project should it start and how long it should take. So what this lets us do is, as it goes through the process, tasks get added to the list, and we already have the timing associated with that. So we don't have a lot of busy work trying to populate these things and build out these records in a system. Say we've got an idea for, one of our customers has asked us for a new component for, a new car seat component. We start the product, we say it's this type of product, it populates the task list with a schedule already. And then of course you can go and tweak it, right? Because things change, everything may be a little bit different, but the basic idea is the same, and we get a starting point, and then we can tweak these as necessary. But the idea is, we capture information about our products, we capture information about how they get from ideation all the way through to production and obsolescence. We have visibility, we have timing, we have to-do lists, and we can ensure that the process goes as smoothly as possible, and we're not doing a bunch of non-value add work, making sure we get our best shot at delivering this thing and being profitable. Right. So where the integration between PLM and PDM, Fusion Lifecycle as the PLM and Vault as the PDM solution comes in, is at the right time of the process. So if we're talking about from ideation to production or obsolescence as the overall process, at some point we're going to start working on the design of this product. And that's going to generally mean employing CAD of some sort, right? We're going to have CAD files, we're going to have documents, various documents describing all this stuff. We can store that data in our PDM solution, but we don't have to duplicate effort, we don't have to retype. We can actually integrate Fusion Lifecycle and Vault so that at the right time, at the right stage of the process, we can have projects automatically created in Vault with an appropriate folder structure. The right information can go in those products. We could even have high-level items created in Vault to start with, and then eventually associate those items to individual CAD files as needed. And then in engineering, using the CAD tools, we build out, say, our inventor assemblies, we create our drawings, all that information gets created. We extract the bill of materials into Vault items, complete the engineering bill of materials, and then that feeds back into PLM. So we're round tripping. This is not, there's no wall here, right? This is integration. We take this data from PLM, we plant the seed inside PDM, that seed grows into our design, and then we take the end product and feed that information back into PLM. So it really is a very nice, complete solution, closing the loop on what is often a very disjointed part of the process. And we're nearly out of time. There's one more thing I want to talk about, is once you start to bring this information together in PLM, your products, how you execute on those products, you can start taking advantage of that information to make sure you're meeting targets. And we do that through reporting in Fusion Lifecycle. So if you looked at my dashboard before I collapsed this earlier, I had a couple of charts up here. And this would be on your dashboard. You can configure your dashboard to include whatever charts you want for either the task at hand or what you do every day, right? I've configured this now for more of a new product introduction dashboard. So what we see here is, my products by family. We haven't assigned a value to most of these, but we've got some mobile products, we've got desktop consumer, automotive, right? We also have our new product introduction pipeline here and where we are in the process for various products. We're largely in the concept phase on most of them, right? Getting requirements, validation, we're in production in a few of them maybe. But we get a sense of what does our product portfolio look like? Is it mature? If we don't have enough in concept and requirements definition, maybe our product line is maturing and we need to get, some new ideas into the pipeline. And as we're executing these things, where do we stand? Do we have a lot of open work left? Are we waiting for a lot to be reviewed? What's the holdup? Why do we have so much of this left in concept? Well, there's still a lot of work to actually be done, right? So this reporting as a decision maker can be instrumental in making sure that your products get to market on time and profitably. And these are just some out-of-the-box reports. The reports are completely configurable. You can get information from the system in various ways by visual charts like that, just an HTML page, or even exported to Excel. Here's a whole list of default reports, and you can report on any workflow or any workspace, I should say, in the system, so that you can get the kind of information you need to make the decisions that you need. So we could take a closer look at our products by state, right? Again, this is our little pie chart. We can get a closer look at it. We can export this to a PDF or an image to put into a presentation. Although if you're going to make a presentation, if you're in front of a computer, you might as well just bring up Fusion Lifecycle and look at it straight away instead of pasting an image onto a slide. Right? But if you need more hard data out of it, you need to do something to it in Excel, because Excel is never going to go away, right? You could always spit out a spreadsheet, right? And then open that in Excel and do whatever you need to it, right? This is just, the output from Excel, and you can then take it and act on it further from there, right? So reporting is a vital part of the process that you can take advantage of once you start using Fusion Lifecycle and Vault PLM. All right, so just to review, the Vault PLM product can bring you a configurable new product introduction or new product development process to standardize that process, to more formalize it, capture it, provide visibility, standardize deliverables and tasks, provide a solid configurable workflow with tracking, phase-gated milestones, giving you the opportunity to foresee delays, change course if necessary, getting real-time views of where you stand on the process, reporting on the overall product portfolio can give you insight into how are we doing from a product standpoint. Are we getting stale? Are we moving too quickly? Right? These are the sort of more qualitative things that can be really hard to gauge unless you talk to a lot of people, where if you've got data in a system, those things it's literally at your fingertips. All right. So that's it for today's presentation. I really appreciate your time. And now we'll open up the floor to questions. Not seeing any questions just yet, which I hope is a good sign. I hope it was a clear presentation, not a lot of confusion. So we'll give it maybe just another 30 seconds or so for questions. All right, so we're not seeing any questions come in. So just a reminder, if you do have questions, you can always reach out to us here at Hagerman and Company. We can give you a more detailed look at what the system can provide and how it might meet your new product introduction needs. But with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up.
Thanks, Forrest. Thank you all for attending today. Just a reminder, look out for that email that you'll receive tomorrow, which will contain a link for the recording. And also there's just that short survey as we close down today. We appreciate if you guys fill that out for us. Again, thanks for attending and have a great day, everyone.